Side 1, Yelda-01, Subrealm, Uncharted Territories. Time 8:43:13 Earth time. A sterile white room flickered into view. Its polished walls reflected the clinical glow of overhead fluorescent lights. The room resembled a standard laboratory. Its shelves were overflowed with its marvelous SCP Foundation advanced equipment. It lined up the perimeter, arranged by the order of usefulness, patiently waiting for their use. In the center stood a grand table, its surface cluttered with an array of chemicals, ranging from weak acids to volatile bases. Several beakers filled with substances of unknown origin stood tall, displaying its contents. A few of them twisted in reaction to lights above. The others stood still as the unbothered paddle just after rain. All alien, all strange. Dr. Oriana Gritz sat hunched over the table. Scattered around her stood multiple of petri dishes, all with different kinds of growth media on them. Some used nutrient agars, the other blood agars. The lighting flickered for a second above Dr. Oriana as she observed an alien matter under the microscope. The Foundation orders were clear to her. Examine and experiment with matter samples retrieved by the scout group from this newly discovered fractured realm in Void. This mission wasn't something new for Miss Oriana, since she had worked in the Foundation Void Division for over a decade now. A faint chemical odor lingered in the air, subtly tugging our focus. She looked up, drawn by the movement in the corner of her eye, and spotted a familiar figure silhouetted against the frame of the reinforced laboratory doors. "Can I come in?" a deep voice asked. The man stood tall, his uniform betraying his role in the facility. Just a janitor, equipped with nothing more than a mop and a bucket filled with briny soapy water and a boyish smell. Before she could protest, he entered without waiting for permission, crossing the distance between them in mere moments, and with no hesitation, he leaned down and kissed her. "Oh, B, you know I can let anyone inside while I'm working on Foundation project," she cheated, though her words carried no real protest. She returned his affection, pushing aside her work as she stood up to embrace him. For a moment, the whole world around them disappeared, as true love stepped in its place. They locked their eyes. A boy and a girl, a male and a female, a husband and a wife. Before the moment could deepen, a sharp screech cracked from the intercom above the door, static distorting the otherwise soft male voice that followed. "Attention personnel, the Foundation would like to remind you of your daily security exercises at level -1. Additionally, the cafeteria will be serving pizza today alongside the usual meal options. If you have any inquiries, please file them with the site director's office. The Foundation wishes you all a very pleasant day." "Pizza? Finally some good food," B exclaimed, grinning as if he could already taste it. Oriana met his gaze once again. It was just two of them, wrapped in each other's warmth, breaking the overall cold atmosphere of the sterile room. However, that moment was just temporary. The sound of distant plasma shot filled the air. The lights once again flickered above them, accompanied by a subtle shake of the ground. The facility intercom once again came to life, this time its tone sharper, more urgent. "Attention! West Wing site security personnel is instructed to proceed to the west wing of the barrier system immediately." B rolled his eyes, his easy confidence barely shaken. "Relax, sweetheart, it's probably nothing you heard. The turrets already handle whatever anomaly lingered near the hollow wall. Can you hear it?" They both stopped for a second to focus on sounds around them. It was all silent. Too silent. "The fence system's down, which means that the problem is gone," he stated calmly, grabbing her hands while pushing her closer to him. His words were meant to reassure, and for a moment they did. She exhaled slowly while shaking her head. "You know, for a janitor, you sure act like a security expert." He smirked. "I'll learn from the best. Now tell me, how's the research go?" But he never finished, as the speaker sparked once again. But this time, the voice carried an unmistakable note of dread. "Attention, all security personnel." Her voice nearly drowned out of the rising wail of alarms, a sound now swelling throughout the facility. "The west and north barrier." The static took more and more of his voice away into distortion. "Down! All science is like you check cold." His voice looped as the broadcast was cut short. Darkness swallowed the facility in an instant. The hum of machines silenced, the stillness stretched for no longer than a breath before emergency generators roared to life, bathing the room in flickering crimson glow. Then, an explosion thundered from far western wing, shaking the walls of the whole site, its force bleeding into distant screams beyond the door, followed by the sounds of gunshots and glass shattering. Oriana bolted upright. She barely registered B yanking open the lab doors as they stepped into a ward collapsing around them. The once pristine impenetrable walls of Incident-Yelda-01 now fractured with deep, splintering cracks, revealing the ward outside behind her. Dust and debris littered the floor. It made no sense, however. The explosion had been far away. How the hell could the damage be this widespread already? A sudden blur streaked past her, a black mass hurtling down the corridor at natural speed. It struck an escaping researcher, and before she could react, the man collapsed, convulsing violently on the ground. His body twisted, his limbs jerking in grotesque angles as he babbled incoherently. His veins from the impact zone began to change colors as red got replaced with dark, voidy substance, quickly wrapping itself around his body. Another man, one of site security, opened fire at the other end of the corridor, unknowingly marking himself as the center of attention at something outside. Black, long, and slick tendrils pushed themselves throughout the cracks in the walls, grabbing the man and pulling him outside the same way they entered, leaving nothing much of him, other than a mist of red smoke and his gun. A sharp realization made its way into her mind. Her gaze bolted towards the hall, and then she saw them. Three figures stood at the far end of the hallway, their eerie stillness contrasting the chaos around them. They observed their surroundings with unsettling patience, as though studying the very fabric of reality. Their robe-like garments shifted unnaturally, breaking the illusion of them having any clothes on. Their faces were hidden beneath their hoods, however the red strobing lights broke their privacy, exposing the lower jaws. It was something totally human in them. Something that should never exist in this place. One figure raised its hand, the dark folds on his sleeve extended unnaturally. A lantern dangled from its grasp, seemingly connected to his hand. It looked no different from an ordinary oil lamp, yet the flame inside it burned black. With a slow, delicate motion, the figure tilted it forward, and from the darkness of fire, jagged projectiles burst forth. Those bullets ripped down the corridor, shrieking through the air, taking different shapes and sizes. Some of them missed, the others found their marks. Her mind faded, now only a mist of what it was once. Oriana? Nothing around her mattered. She wasn't there anymore. Oriana! The memories of her mother found its way into her fading mind. She remembered the times of her childhood. Before she could give in to the unconscious, a sharp pain jolted her back from a trance as B struck her cheek, his panic now raw. We need to go! Now! Another explosion boomed in the distance. In the window she could see multiple flying objects being intercepted by Foundation flight security. They were losing. Badly. Then she was moving. No, she was being carried. He sprinted throughout the chaos, dodging debris and bodies alike. Her disoriented gaze flickered once again towards the shuttered windows overlooking the front yard. Once littered with trucks, yard now stood as graveyard of twisted corpses and monstrous things alike. Shadowy entities crawled over the wreckage only to get shredded to pieces by Foundation personnel. From the smoke, a squad of soldiers emerged, their rifles trained on a withering mass near the once functional barrier system. But that makes no sense, she murmured. Tendrils of darkness slithered from the ground outside the demolished defense system, extending into facility, grasping some soldiers into the air just to throw them into the ground with unnatural speed. Void Leviathans? But the nearest Void Ocean is over 200 clicks away. How the hell did they... She never finished. He stumbled. His focus finally broke, and as the floating chair flickered itself into his femur, they crashed to the ground. No impact came. Blinking, she found herself standing once more in laboratory doorway, as if they never moved. Her eyes bolted towards the broken windows. The scenery never changed. Void Leviathan was still being dealt by security personnel, helicopters and tanks trying to keep the creature at bay, while soldiers around the machinery tried to keep whatever tried to get closer to them. A sickening realization clouded her mind. He let out strangled gasp. The rope figures loomed over him. Their dark hands held remnants of him, his heart still beating. his brain still warm, further reached towards her. A deafening crash shuddered the moment. The lab wall imploded inward, crushing one of the creatures instantly. The surviving two turned their rage towards the intruder. Their shrieks were short-lived as they rushed into the room, for only silence to follow, broken by the wailing alarms. She fell down, her body giving up on her. She grabbed her now-gone husband's hand and pulled him closer to her. Lying on the ground, she mourned his death, as distant footsteps became more and more audible, followed by the sounds of tile breaking as his legs so strong didn't give them a chance to withstand it. A shadow fell over her. The hulking figure stood above. Its form reminded her of the universe-sized humans, a true mountain of carnage and rage. Trophies hang from his belt, some human and some something else. She looked up at its palm. A black dot formed, humming with unnatural resonance. The last audio the mounted camera registered was a loud explosion, just before the darkness consumed the view. Site 18, Theta 13, Subrealm, Safe Haven. Time, 14:01:31, Earth time. The metallic hum of ventilation systems and fluorescent lights filled the cafeteria, the usual lively chatter replaced now by cold silence. The middle of the room, occupied by two grand tables, stood untouched, as if the place was about to open for the very first time. On the side of the room, a strange, automated machine idled, waiting for the personnel long gone to make a use of it. On the opposite side of it, a monitor stood high up, displaying various meal options. Beneath it, two more slots were built into the wall, one labeled Return and the other Collect, both closed. The space felt hallowed, too large for the number of people assigned here, a skeletal crew, so to speak. A precaution, Foundation stated, and the fewer bodies in one place, the fewer casualties if another breach occurred. Site Yelda-01 with its neighboring sites Yelda-02 and 03 were already lost to the monstrosities of the abyss. The Foundation couldn't let them take this amount of civilians or military here, especially that Theta 13 is located no further than 600 clicks away from them, standing proud overlooking Void Ocean. Additional security placed around the site made it clear that it was ready for any kind of activity from the shoreline. From the east side of cafeteria, muffled voices crept throughout the walls, growing clearer as heavy footsteps approached. The reinforced doors let out a deep metallic groan as they stood open. Two figures stepped inside, one tall and bored, while the other smaller, covered by worn brown cloak. The taller man walked with authority, every step measured, while the other, with his rifle slung across his back, moved with the kind of casual confidence that could only be explained from years of knowing exactly what he was capable of. "You taking something?" the taller man asked, his voice firm, hitting the sand. His gaze shifted towards his companion, who dug into his pocket, producing an unmarked pack of cigarettes. Without a word, he slid one between his lips, then offered one sticking out of the pack to his friend. Captain Yelk exhaled sharply. His expression shifted to one of distaste. "You know I don't smoke." Tommy for those who didn't care about formalities, shrugged. With a quick flicker of his fingers, the cigarette lit up, as if he summoned the flame itself. The orange ember glowed in the cafeteria's sterile light, as he took a slow drag. "We need to discuss the plan. Let's sit." Yelk motioned towards the furthest table where the shadows crept at the edges of the room. He lowered himself into the chair with kind of practiced ease, while Tommy dropped into his seat with all remorse. More for that, the cloaked man leaned back, balancing his chair slightly on his hind legs. "Alright, Cap, humor me. Why the hell is the Foundation throwing a squad of morons into the depths of void to take out some cosmic horror?" Yelk's expression remained unreadable. "It's not a problem why they want it done. We're here to either make it work or die in the process, Lieutenant Thomas." Tommy scuffled, slowly shaking his head. "Captain, you know I prefer people calling me Tommy. Can we finally settle this damn name conflict that's been drugged for all these years?" Yelk studied him for a moment before responding. "Your name is Lieutenant Thomas Riddle. You've served the Foundation for over 20 years. You've turned down every promotion above your rank. You are a combat specialist. 3,401 confirmed kills, many more that were never officially recorded. Human or anomaly, you see no distinction. If it's an enemy, you eliminate it. And just because you're anomalous doesn't mean you can disrespect me. If I decide to call you Tomasz, then Tomasz you will be. Understood? It wasn't a threat, not exactly. More of a cold, calculated reminder, delivered with a tone of a father reprimanding a son. Tommy exhaled a breath of smoke towards his captain, still shaking his head, but now in amusement. Whatever you say, Cap. A smirk stretched across his face, self-assured as ever. Then, without the warning, Yelk moved, spotting an opportunity, his foot pressed against the leg of Tommy's chair, and with subtle shift of weight, he sent it tipping backward. Hey! No fair! Tommy barely had time to react before hitting the floor with a dual thud. He groaned, rubbing the back of his head. It bled just a bit. But I guess I deserved it. Not even a second later, the bleeding stopped, his wound long gone, as if it was never made in the first place. A soft chuckle drifted from across the room. The cafeteria doors had slid open again. Bloody hell. Your eyes never change, eh? The voice carried a mix of exasperation accompanied by amusement. You're planning to stay children till your bloody graves? Anna stepped inside, arms crossed, a knowing smirk playing at her lips. Atmosphere got a bit lighter. Yelk straightened a bit in his seat, as if he wanted to cover up his unprofessionalism. Good to see you, Annie. How's the research going? Any progress on matters retrieved from Yelda-02? Anna tilted her head slightly, concern flickering across her face. I'm afraid that anything discovered there didn't survive the breach. The matter I'm working with is basically non-responding. Her bright attitude darkened a bit in reaction to murmurs of testing long-dead organic matters. Mind if I join? Come, take a seat. Yelk gestured to the table. The meeting's about to start soon. Tommy, still on the ground, let out an exaggerated sigh as he picked himself up. Why, hello, Annie. Good to see you, too. How's Oswald? Anna rolled her eyes. He's fine. You know, you should be out, soon. Just, well, you know him. Prepare for this little walk to cafeteria. Tommy chuckled. Now it does, Sir Oswald. Wondering what kind of weapons he's dragging along this time. Anna smirked but said nothing. She took a seat between boys. Silence stretched on, the atmosphere of the room unchanged, still the same cold and empty space, humming with dull sounds of machinery. A sterile prison of whiteness, but for the first time of a while, that silence didn't feel so suffocating. 15 minutes passed. The group engaged in idle conversations, drifting from one topic to another. Anna spent this time ordering pre-made food. Well, almost food. A protein bag was hardly considered food, but it was better than nothing. A large window on one of the walls displayed the world outside the walls of the barrier system. The grand void ocean stretched itself endlessly in all directions, its surface an abyssal expanse. In the far distance, just barely visible, lay the shoreline, the border of another realm within the void. The place where the tragedy struck was once thought to be impenetrable defenses for Foundation Michael's advances. Time struggled to maintain consistency here. 1 minute in the void equated to only 20 seconds on Earth, but for Anna and Oswald, who came from an entirely different reality than Yelk and Tommy, those rules were much different. On their Earth, 1 minute in the void translated to 30 minutes in real life. Across all realities that had access to the void, the ruling decision remained the same. The Foundations would not involve themselves directly with void's politics. They would send personnel, security, or research. But true authority rested on Void Council, constructed by one of many members of 05 councils from different planes of realities. And of course, higher being Michael, was both their benefactor and their captor. The Foundation relied on them for security within his realm and access to his labs, yet he viewed them not as allies, but as mere test subjects, resources to be studied, manipulated. He had aided them on multiple occasions, but always with a scientist detachment, as if preparing to toss a lab rat into a snake's cage. The Foundation had little recourse. Michael's protection was absolute within his domain. Beyond that, the labs scattered across the void operated under strict emergency protocols to combat the chaotic, ever-shifting environment. The only time these protocols had ever been triggered was on site Yelda-03, where someone had managed to activate them, alerting Michael himself. He had arrived almost instantly and dealt with the creatures breaching the site, But with doing so, he also wiped out most of the personnel still alive and obliterated the entire structure of the site. Only afterward did he explain that he had been aware of earlier breaches on Yelda-01 and 2, but had merely observed, curious about the cause and potential future solutions. The Foundation was furious, but ultimately relieved. Had the destruction spread further, Yelda-04 and 05, both in close proximity, would have been lost as well. Michael had stationed himself at the latter sites for a while, overseeing the evacuation as the remaining crew escaped through emergency portals back to his domain. His final report mentioned an advanced void entity named Herald, a higher being who had effortlessly torn throughout the Yelda-01 and 02. The screech of the door broke the conversations. A figure entered, a towering, mechanical colossus clad in an exoskeleton. Cylinders of liquid nitrogen and fuel lined his back, a small hatch stationed above them, and an array of weapons jutted from his frame. His voice, calm yet deafening, boomed from his speakers.
I would like to welcome you all.
Annie and Yelk immediately covered their ears. Noticing their discomfort, the giant adjusted the volume of his speakers.
Apologies. Did not mean to deafen you all.
He strode forward. Oswald. Yelk motioned him closer, and without hesitation he hurled a cab at him. Instantly, Oswald's exoskeleton detected an incoming object and deployed a shield, deflecting the projectile. What the hell's this? Yelk snapped. Why are you geared up like we're in the middle of a war zone? Oswald remained unfazed.
The opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Captain, preparation is not paranoia, Captain. It's foresight. I'd rather be a fortress in times of peace than a ruin in times of war.
He took a seat, only for the chair to collapse under his weight. Before he hit the ground, his suit engaged a stabilization mechanism, catching him mid-fall. A voice, clearly frustrated, emerged from within Oswald's suit. What the hell's going on out there? You're throwing off my calibrations. A hatch on the exoskeleton's back opened, and a grease-streaked figure crawled out, covered in oil. Finally, he muttered, stretching his stiff limbs. Last adjustments are done. As expected, the researcher marked in the flesh. Yelk remained, scanning him from head to toe. You got a bit of, oil, well, everywhere. Really funny, Dombus, Martin grumbled. Do you have any idea how hard it is to fine-tune this thing while he suddenly rushes into action? He rolled his eyes and sat down next to them. Everyone's here? The question hung in the air. No one answered for a moment until Yelk broke the silence. No, we're missing one. A subtle tension settled over the group. Almost instinctively, all eyes turned towards the cafeteria door. Footsteps echoed from behind it. Each second felt elongated, as if time itself hesitated. The air grew heavy, unnatural like a crude imitation of reality. The door swung open. A man stepped through. Not a researcher, but a medic. A cross adorned his uniform, marking his profession. He approached the group with a beaming smile and bowed dramatically. The name's Rom. I'm your new teammate and combat medic, assigned by the Order of Foundation Council. It's an honor to meet you all. Silence. He waited for a response. Wait a damn second. Yelk shot to his feet. You are our new teammate? Yes, Captain Yelk. Rom's enthusiasm didn't waver. My assignment was directly approved by Sir Michael. Realization struck like a bolt of lightning. The room tensed. Oswald inspected his plasma rifle, unacceptably scanned the room in search of something, anything. Tommy lit another cigarette, took a long drag, then exhaled. His words shuddered the quiet. He's here. Everyone froze. Here? Yelk's voice sharpened. What do you mean, Tomasz? No response. God damn it, answer me! He turned sharply towards Tommy, only to find someone else sitting in his place. It was a shapeless, flickering mass of darkness. It pulsed, shifting in size, adjusting to its chaotic form. Yelk gazed around the room, spotting Tommy sitting now right next to him. Everyone instinctively aimed their weapons at it. What the fuck is this? Anna demanded, pulling a vial of chemicals from her pocket. No breach alert, Tommy muttered, his rifle steady. Unless the intercom's compromised. Something isn't right. Look closely. They did. Within the mass, a single word emerged. Distorted yet legible.
Behind.
Yelk was the first one to react. He spun around, his eyes locked onto the figure hunched over the railing by the site's massive window. gazing over the void ocean.
16, 17, 18.
Excellent.
A voice, smooth yet fractured, reverbed throughout the room.
Your reaction time is remarkable, Captain. Most being I have worked with to count.
Much longer to realize. I'm satisfied.
The figure straightened, his white lab coat contrasted sharply against the dim surroundings, faintly glowing. Black veins pulsed along his arms and face. A small cut mirrored his cheek. A glowing yellow question mark shimmered on his neck. Michael. In a blink, Michael appeared directly in front of Yelk, seizing his hand in an overly enthusiastic shake.
It is quite good to meet you, Tim. Allow me to make a proper introduction.
He blinked once again, now standing in the middle of the room. Strange symbols appeared under his person, glowing bright blue. He started to levitate above the ground. Suspended slightly above the floor, in his hands symbols manifested. White yin and black yang. Above his head, an infinity sign hovered. My name is... But you humans know me as Michael. I am the co-creator of the site, of every site in the void. God of my realm, architect of the void, and now we have much work to do.